Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest, Selene Calloni Williams. And she's here today to share with us her new book, The Mother Mantra, The Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. Now, Selene has a degree in psychology and a master's in screenwriting. She has authored several books and documentaries on psychology, shamanism, yoga, psychology, and anthropology. She's a direct student of James Hillman, who studied and practiced Buddhist meditation and shamanic tantric yoga. She's the founder and director of the Imaginal Academy Institute in Switzerland and travels the world leading workshops and facilitating groups. Selene's other books are #1 bestsellers in Europe. And today she's here to share with us her new book, just released in the US, The Mother Mantra, The Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. So let's welcome to the show, Selene Calloni Williams.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
What a great honor it is to spend this time with you. I know you're in Switzerland right now, and to spend this time talking about your brand new book, The Mother Mantra, is so honored to have you here.
Thank you, Marianne.
So I know our listeners are going to just be asking me this, so I have to ask, what inspired you to write this book?
Oh, after many years of shamanic yoga practice, being a psychologist and having received a lot of benefits from the practice of shamanic yoga, I decided to start using the healing practices and the spiritual exercises known in the Mother Mantra tradition with my patients. And I immediately received a positive feedback, and so I decided to found a school of shamanic yoga in Switzerland. The school is for anyone, and from the beginning, among the students, there have been many psychologists, counselors, life coaches, and many yoga teachers. These teachers and therapists helped to spread shamanic yoga all over Europe. So now we have hundreds of students in the school doing courses, most of which are online and so can be attended remotely. We offer only a retreat, but must be attended personally. We host this retreat in many places of the world. And from this current year, we host it also in the US. You can find all the details and the programs on my website, selenecalloniwilliams.com.
Well, that's great. I know that your school is highly sought after. People go there from all over the world to learn shamanic yoga. And so why don't we start with this? So for our listeners that are new to this practice, what is shamanic yoga?
Oh, so the teachings of shamanic yoga are very ancient, ancestral. I was initiated to the path of shamanic yoga more than 30 years ago in Sri Lanka by my teacher, Michael Williams, who despite his English name was a Tamil, a yoga and a shamanism scholar. And we can say that we do a shamanic yoga when we reach a state of ecstasy, which is a profound mystical experience, a trance-like state, an experience of self-transcendence, a state of joy, happiness, and calm, serenity, a non-dual state of consciousness in which one feels distinct but not separated from the entire cosmos. And we reach this state through fluid or flowing sequences, which are yoga posture done in a fluid sequence with a breath control, and through devotion, love, and active imagination, visualization.
So there's lots of things that go into that. You mentioned earlier the Mother Mantra, and that's what your book is titled, The Mother Mantra, the Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. What is a Mother Mantra?
The Mother Mantra is the very core of Shamanic Yoga. It's a very ancient tradition which aims to the reabsorption of reality or withdrawal of projections. And what do we mean with these two phrases? We mean soul making and deep ecology. This, in its turn, means taking all those objects, people, and feelings that we have met in the course of our lives back to their original state of image, dream, projection. You see, we live in a universe that is not substantial, is not made of its own substance, but is symbolic. And this perfectly matches the Buddhist concept of samsara wheel, otherwise known as the wheel of illusions. It is therefore chitta maya, or deceit of our conscience. And the same concept exists in Hinduism too. In the Linga Purana, in the Puranas are Hindu texts. In the Lingam Purana, we read the existence is Shiva's dance, who dancing awakens matter and makes of it pulsating waves. And this is poetry, but it's also science. It reminds us, in fact, of quantum physics, where matter is seen as waves pulsating in the void. Matter is impermanent. In the tradition of the Mother Mantra, we say it's like lightning. It appears and disappears. It does not last. It is unsubstantial. Our minds must be deceiving us when we see reality as permanent and substantial. And this deceit is in truth a cage wherein we suffocate and suffer. Since if events are considered as objective, they cannot be modeled by our ability to imagine. And this is how a person ends up being a victim of events rather than their creator or lover. And so why should we live as victims when we can free ourselves from this deceit? The Mother Mantra is an instrument to reach freedom from this trap. The Mother Mantra as instrument does not pass through the thinking mind, since the thinking mind itself holds us in this bondage, but it passes through the body, since it is a vibration. The continuous repetition of a mantra leads the body's consciousness to appropriating the mantra's vibration and begins independently repeat it automatically. Thus, it happens, for instance, that a person wakes up in the middle of the night to find that something within him is repeating the mantra. When this happens, when the body appropriates the vibration of the mantra, then the energy which the mantra carries is released. And so what intention does the Mother Mantra carry? It is that of awakening from the illusion of objectivity and reabsorbing reality, and thus regaining our ability to imagine all events. Does it make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. And I'm glad that you took the time to go into that and explain that for us. You know, it's so important that our listeners get, you know, a very basic understanding of all this. So I know I'm asking you some very basic questions because you're at such a high level. It's, you know, this is kind of the foundation of your teaching in many ways. When we talk about, and we've touched on the shamanic yoga, you also talk about in your book about, you know, that it is non-duality. So what does that mean so our listeners can understand?
Yes, a non-dual state of consciousness is a state of ecstasy, is a state of amplified experience, amplified mind, in which one feels distinct but not separated from the entire universe. And this is reached in the shamanic yoga through the so-called shamanic journey. A shamanic journey is a journey across two worlds, the visible and the invisible. And through the shamanic journey, we cross the great threshold and we come back from it. It is a natural journey that everyone does continuously. Every time one falls asleep or wakes up in the morning, he or she takes this journey. During sleep, one goes in the underworld, and waking up, one comes back. Sleep is a little death, you see, but also every time one eats something, one does a shamanic journey. Eating is transporting a life through the great threshold, be it an apple, a carrot, an orange, transforming something that is visible in something that is invisible, energy, emotions, thoughts, and then in something that is visible again, an action, for instance. No one can carry a life from one side to another of a great threshold without taking the trip themselves.
Yeah, doing that.
Even when you are finishing taking a breath, before you take the next one, you undergo a journey through the great threshold. Every time we change mood, every time we pass from a state of joy to a state of depression, or from a state of anger to a state of serenity, we take a journey. The problem is that normally people are not aware of the journey, and this makes them miss tremendous possibilities. They miss a tremendous possibility being not aware. So the non-dual state of consciousness is a state of full awareness. Because the underworld is a place where one can find a lot of energy, inspiration, ideas, many tools for their lives. But you should be fully conscious when you take the journey. If you are not conscious, you cannot grasp the gifts that invisibility can offer you. Being conscious means being in a state of ecstasy, in a non-dual state of consciousness, which is an amplified state of consciousness, in which you can perceive in a different way, of course, both. You can perceive in both the two dimensions. That means open the inner senses and be fully aware. Be in the present moment with clarity and attention. And in order to achieve ecstasy, in order to achieve a non-dual state of consciousness and be conscious during the journey, one should not have fear. One should trust the invisible. This is why, as I said, love, devotion are tools for non-dual state of consciousness, for ecstasy. Not the thinking mind. The mind can't trust. The function of the logical mind is to control through analyzing and dissecting. In order to achieve the state of ecstasy, we should go beyond the thinking mind and reach a wider mind and we can say another mind that unites the power of knowledge with the power of love. Does it make sense, Marianne?
It does, and thank you for taking the time to explain that and break all that down so that people have a basic understanding of the Mother Mantra and what ancient Shamanic Yoga is, so especially when we talk about non-duality, because I think a lot of times when people hear this stuff, it could be maybe a little overwhelming until they understand what it's all about. And so this has me thinking, I mean, in your book you talk about this, but what does nature, the harmony of nature, teach us about our spiritual experiences?
Oh, nature is a great teacher. Nature's, you see, nature's perspective is horizontal, not vertical, like the mind's. The mind judges from a vertical perspective through a vertical world axis, which separates good from bad, true from false, advantage from disadvantage. In nature, instead, the perspective is horizontal. It consists of beauty, which does not have an opposite. Ugliness, in fact, does not exist in nature. Her beauty is poesy, passion, willingness to surrender, love. And nature teaches us inclusiveness. Inclusiveness is something more than ethics or morals. It comes from a non-dual vision in which wisdom and love are inseparable. It represents a step forward. Nature is an aesthetic experience. Inclusiveness is an aesthetic and ecstatic experience. Both are emotional, poetic experiences. And beauty is the language of nature. When you enter a forest, bring the palms of your hands together in front of your chest and bow to the forest. This is a simple practice known in the Shamanic Yoga tradition. It's so simple and so important. Put the hands together in a symbol of uniting opposites, the symbol of non-duality. In nature, it is best to suspend judgment. From the perspective of nature, you aren't judged, but you are accepted as pure love. And before leaving the forest, another simple but important practice from Shamanic Yoga. Thank the forest, and then find some stones and pile them up in shape of a stupa. Think of each stone that being shaped by erosion. Some of them might come from other planets. They all have a soul and memories. And before you make the pile, bring each stone to your heart and bless it as a gesture of respect for world soul. Nature teaches us not an alternative therapy, but an alternative to therapy. The aesthetic experience is the alternative to the therapeutic models. If therapeutic models are allowed to become our go-to solutions for all problems, they are bound to be seen as the only possible solution. Beauty is poetry, willingness, love, ecstasies, which in its turn is a state of self-transcendence, a state of wider consciousness in which we can know at a higher level. For instance, nature teaches us impermanence, which can help us to win the death of fear. And can I tell you another shamanic yoga practice?
Of course.
To enter the mood of impermanence, which helps us to overcome fear.
I would love to hear it.
So, when you are in contact with nature, take 3 deep breaths and then stay a few seconds without breathing. Hold your breath for a few seconds and feel yourself disappearing. This really helps you to overcome profound fear, but you are not aware of. And you see, nature teaches us the rhythm. Beauty is rhythm. This is the principle of being at the right place and at the right moment. All things in nature follow this principle. The flowers bloom at the right time, and also animals stop hibernating at the right time. Catching the right moment is an instinctive ability. If you want to develop this ability in the Mother Mantra tradition, it's suggested a meditation. Can I tell you another short meditation?
Oh, please. That's what we're here for. We want to learn all this.
When walking in the forest or in a woods, and you see a bird, an animal, or an insect, think that to be there in that moment at the right time is not a coincidence, but the result of the rhythm that unites everything, including you, in the forest, and then thanks the rhythm. This meditation can help to tune in with universal harmony, which means being in the right place at the right time to reach your goals. Nature teaches us to love our imperfection. Beauty is simplicity, humility, and imperfection. In the forest, we can observe beauty as simplicity and imperfection. When you walk into the forest, tune in with the fragility, humility, and incompleteness of nature, but is all around. Beauty can also be perceived in a broken object rather than in a new one. When you are in nature, observe the small objects, even those that seems muddy or dirty. In the Mother Mantra tradition, it is recommended to meditate on your own body, on all the aspects of your body but are not part of the common aesthetic canons, and love them unconditionally. And I love this meditation. I do it. I do it every day.
Well, and what a great way for someone to connect with nature in a really deep and powerful way. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time to do that. I mean, the 3 breaths and you hold it and you just kind of drift away is something that anyone can do, just right outside their office or their home. It's not like they need to be in, always in a forest.
Yes, you can do it everywhere and in every moment, and it's really simple. Just 1 minute of full immersion can change completely your mood and can change the events around you, and can help you to reach your goals during the span of your day.
Well, and then, so how does, because you talk about this in the Mother Mantra as well, how does survival instinct play a part in all of this?
Oh, yes, survival instinct is a great part of nature. So it's good to talk about it. So, in truth, our survival instinct is a celebration of the importance and value of life. Our life is, of course, impermanent, ephemeral. It is a representation of the sacred act, the ability of the visible to give itself to invisibility. And as such, to become the substance of the visible. In an endless becoming, the sacred act, sacrum facere in Latin, is a constant sacrificing of oneself to create above oneself, moved by love. Every instance of creation in nature is an act of love, and every birth requires a death. The love you might feel for a flower or a forest makes you dissolve yourself in that flower, in that forest, whereby your mind, the preponderance of the self, vanishes. Our survival instinct is very different from our fear of death, which is an essentially human phenomenon stemming from our unwillingness to accept the impossibility of staying in control through the mind and to surrender ourselves to the unknown. Does it make sense, Marianne?
That makes perfect sense, Selene. I'm so glad that you were able to explain that. We are going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Selene Calloni Williams in regards to her new book, The Mother Mantra. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Selene Calloni Williams, and she's sharing with us her new book, The Mother Mantra, The Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. Now, we're so lucky that we get to spend this time with Selene from Switzerland today. Her book is a #1 bestseller in Europe, and it just hit the American market. It's making some huge waves. So before we went for break, we were talking about life, Selene, and just how there's this ebb and flow and how everything just comes together with that. In your book, you talk about the great image. And I'd love for you to take just a couple minutes and explain to our audience what that is and what that would look like.
Yes. Once again, I have to talk about love.
We like talking about love on this show, so that's fine.
Because the great image, it is the image that is included in all the images that we can encounter in our life, people, things, places, and events. We said that everything is image, dream, projection. The imaginative process can only be carried out in a relationship between two entities. Images, which constitute all events we experience in life, are created in a relationship between two elements, which we can call visible and invisible. We could alternatively define it as the human and the divine. Everything is conceived in a creative relationship between the human and the divine. In this relationship, neither man nor God exist in their separate reality. The only thing which actually exists is the relationship. And this relationship is a constant giving of oneself to the other. In other words, it's love. Only love exists. So when somebody manages to lead all events back to their original nature, which is love, suffering ends. The ability to create with love, for love, in love, is the point which we are able to reach through the morning and evening spiritual exercises and healing practices known in the Mother Mantra tradition. In fact, within the Mother Mantra tradition, we encounter many rituals which aim to an awakening. The outcome of the various challenges we face in our life depends on the daily rituals that we enact. To introduce in your daily life some rituals from the Mother Mantra is in itself a big step toward freedom. And so the great image is the image of the conception of all the images of our lives. In the union between the human and the divine is the love, true love. We call it mystical marriage. This is a magical relationship in which all actions will result effortless. Since in this magical relationship with the divine, everything is given to you before you even have a need for it. The magical marriage is a really a magical situation. And you can be aware of this situation through the practices and the healing exercises known in the Mother Mantra tradition. You see, when personal effort ceases to be we enter a condition of constant and incessant inspiration. We are inspired. Even a scientist, when discovering something exceptional, has to give up the need of controlling everything and surrender to a relationship with the mysterious, with the divine, once one gets the right idea at the right moment. This condition is known as mystical marriage, or for alchemists, alchemic wedding. And this is a concept found in all the spiritual traditions of the world. Think, Marianne, think of Hinduism and the partnership between Shiva and Parvati, the latter being the creative force. Think of the esoteric Buddha. In esoteric Buddhism, the main point of reference is not Gautama Siddhartha, the historic Buddha, but the so-called Vajradhara, that is the Buddha depicted in an erotic union with his companion. And think of esoteric Christianity, Gnosticism, where we hear about the union between Christ and Sophia. Think of the Song of Songs, which tells of the love between Solomon and his bride. And then think of esoteric Islam, of Sufism, with poets like Rumi, who praises the carnal love between human and divine. Entering into a mystical marriage means to be in the company of a good diamond, which we can call guardian angel or guide spirit. It is basically the representative of the divine, the representative of the divine in our life. We can also call it mystery, invisible, or to say it with Jung, a shade. A shade is the whole of our possibilities and repressed energies. It is all that we do not know, but whence our consciousness gets energy to exist. And in order to consciously get more energy from the shade, one must be able to go through a process which in depth psychology we can call transvaluation. Do you want to know what transvaluation is?
Yeah, let's cover that too, since we're here,
Can I explain it? So this initially involves coming to the realization that our pains, worries, and problems are actually our greatest wealth. Their aim in the wider picture is that of pushing us forward and making us evolve. So the daily ritual practices from the Mother Mantra are also a path towards deep ecology. Nature is not a material object, but a symbol. We project what we have inside and inhabit our own images. To understand nature and our own body, we should try to look at them through their own eyes, not through the eyes of mind. And not only do we have two eyes looking at the outside world, we also have an eye looking inwards. It is through this eye that we can behold the truth of nature and our body, and through which we can awake from the illusion that creates suffering. Does it make sense, Marianne?
Yes, it makes perfect sense, and I'm glad that we are talking about that, because it is a very ancient and deep concept, and I really appreciate that you're taking the time to go through it so our listeners can really grasp and gain understanding of this. I mean, for a lot of people, this may be new. For some, it may be new information along their path, but in all ways, it definitely is really good information to help move people forward. In your book, you taught in the Mother Mantra, you say there are 4 movements of the Mother Mantra. What are those?
Yes, the 4 movements of the Mother Mantra. Yes, good question. I like this question, Marianne. So the first movement is understanding the dream state. becoming aware of the dream states. As I said before, we are living in an imaginal universe. This means that everything that actually exists is like an image, a dream, a projection. And so we have to become aware of this. We have to become aware that everything that we experience in life is just as it was real, but is in reality is a dream. And the second movement is taking the spirit with oneself. This is what we call the hunt for the soul, and is a very esoteric path. If you want, I can explain it a little bit, but it's a very esoteric path, the hunt for the soul. And yes, hunt for the soul means that we can take the spirits, the energies with us, the best energies, the best spirits that we encounter in our life. We can take them with us. And the most important images in our life from which we can take energies and inspirations are ancestors, sacred places, high emotional events, and most meaningful dreams. So the hunt for the soul is done asking to the spirits of our ancestors, come with me, simply saying this sentence, this formula, this like a mantra, come with me, asking the spirit of our ancestors to come with us. Even if they are still alive, for example, a dad or a mom, ask the spirit to come with me means include the ancestor within me, and so find all those positive is in my ancestor, and being in a sacred union with him or with her. Also, sacred places, when you are, for instance, in a wood, so in a forest, in a beautiful place in nature, and you see a very, very beautiful spot, you can ask to the spirit of beauty to come with you, simply saying, come with me. Yes, of course, in the mantra tradition, we know some specific mantras in order to ask spirits to come with us. If you read the book, you can know this mantra, because I have written various mantras in the book. And the highly emotional events of our life also have a spirit inside. So one should connect with the emotion and feel the presence of a spirit, and ask to the spirit, come with me, in order to include the event within himself. As I said before, inclusiveness represents a step forward, represent a wider thinking method. And then the most meaningful dreams. In the morning when you wake up, and if you remember an important dream, try to find the most important emotion that was in the dream and ask to the spirit of this emotion, come with me and stay with me. This is the hunt for the soul, which can reconnect you with great energies, ideas, inspiration, can make your life more rich and you more alive, because we can be alive in a different at a different intensity levels. And the third movement, can I go on, Marianne?
Of course.
The third movement is reuniting the divine lovers in awareness of a two-in-one. And this means reaching the Eudaimonia. The word Eudaimonia comes from Greek, is a Greek word indeed, and means be accompanied by a good daimon, a good guide spirit or guardian angel, which is the representative of the divine. Life is the expression of an inner narrative. This narrative, this story, is never the creation of the individual. There are always two writers behind it. Every birth requires the concomitance of two entities. Thus, one can write their inner narrative together with their mind, which represents society's code, or one can write it with the divine. In the first case, they will write a story limited by many barriers and obstacles. In the second case, they will write a story of freedom based on nature's code, on beauty, poetry, love, unlimited possibility. And then the fourth movement, the last one, is the repetition of the mystical mother mantra. Every time you remember, you should repeat the mantra. While walking, driving, eating, talking, you can repeat it mentally. Repeating the mantra allows you to stay in tune with the union, with a mystical marriage. And so you can always remember that you are loved. You can be free from fear and limitation and feel the help of your guide spirit in reaching all your objectives. Does it make sense, Marianne? These are the four movements of Mother Mantra.
It does. And I love how they just dovetail so nicely together. I think a lot of times people, when they start reading this, they can see how everything just has this flow. It flows together so beautifully.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes. Mm.
Well, and so, you talk about spiritual practices in the Mother Mantra. How often should we do our spiritual practices and why?
Yes, we can practice many times a day because some practices are very short. They last just a few seconds, 1 minute of full immersion. Or we can practice every time we need, because in the tradition of the Mother Mantra, there are healing exercises and spiritual practices called evening and morning spiritual practices. So the healing exercises have to be done when it is needed. But the spiritual exercises, the spiritual practices of evening and morning should be done in the evening, in the morning, and the various time a day, because they are really short. As I said, just 1 minute of full immersion. And don't know, if you want an example, I can, for instance,
that would be beautiful, because that way it will really make sense for our listeners if they're wanting to start incorporating that in their own lives.
Yes. So maybe I can talk about the evening star, which is described, of course, in the book, and it is a very simple practice that can be done every evening before falling asleep, and it helps you to reabsorb reality, to withdraw projection. And I explained before what that means. So in order to do the evening star, lying on your bed before falling asleep, keeping your eyes shut, and bring your legs and arms slightly apart. To be able to imagine your body as a 6-pointed star. The 6 points are your hands, your feet, your genitals, and your head. Imagine an opening at the height of your heart chakra, on the exact center of your chest, and breathe into your heart chakra. While inhaling, imagine that you're absorbing through your heart chakra energy in the form of light. This energy spreads throughout the body and is then returned to the cosmos through the star's 6 points. While inhaling, imagine that you are reabsorbing into your heart chakra all the day's images or projections, all that you have seen, felt, and experienced during the course of your day, knowing it to be a dream, an illusion. Whilst exhaling, these images go back to being organs, body, soul. Then they exit through the star's 6 points and dissolve. This practice, called withdrawal of projections, gets you used to experiencing reality as the fruit of your imagination, as a dream, and thus helping you not to be a victim of events, but a friend, a companion, a lover to them. It helps you familiarize with the substantial impermanence of every image, to get rid of those attachments which cause suffering, opening up your visual and providing you with peaceful sleep. Night after night, it dissolves fear. And beyond fear, the rituals of the Mother Mantra will be able to lead you by day and night towards a freer and aware life. This is the evening star, Marianne. Yes.
Well, yeah, and it's so important. I know you talk about the importance of just having our spiritual practices and and doing those, and it really puts people in a state where they're better connected.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Well, and I know in your book, The Mother Mantra, you give examples of different poses for us to use. Why is this so important with everything that you've written in the book?
Yes, I described different poses in my book, yes. And they are very important, yes, because a ritual is done with the body, not with the mind. And the Mala Mantra postures are a meditation with the body. Meditating with the body is important because our body is our precious tool to reach freedom and reawakening. You can watch flowing sequences, videos in English on my website. The fluid sequences are meditations with the body. In shamanic yoga traditions, there are a lot of flowing sequences that can help you cope with many issues. For instance, there is a fluid sequence that makes you sleep well. Another for energizing body and mind in the morning. Another for vanishing anger. Another for overcoming fear and frustration. And there is also a fluid sequence that helps you develop a good relationship with food and eat well. A human body is a very precious gift to understand and live in permanence, inclusiveness, compassion, joy, beauty, love. You see, Marianne, a shamanic ritual is always made by two ingredients that are called mother experience and the son experience. The son experience is the energetic and bodily experience. The mother experience is the visionary experience. And this is why we have always both in a shamanic yoga practice. And this is why postures or poses are so important for us.
That, it is, because it just completes the whole practice.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Well, I know that you are a big part of the spiritual revolution that's taking place right now. What are some things that our listeners can do to join you in your work?
Oh, yes, thank you for this question, Marianne. Yes, of course, read the book and do the practices described in the book. This is the first step, of course. And then do the free webinars, for instance, that they can find on my website, and join the membership program through which many things are offered for free, ebooks, webinars, and then become shamanic yoga teachers. I offer courses to become shamanic yoga teachers, and they are online. And as I said, there is only a seminar which has been done in person. But starting from 2019, I do these seminars also in US, and maybe people can also take part on my trips. I organize trips in the most mystical places of the world, and I take people to meet mystical persons, like, for instance, shamans in Siberia or Burma, or lamas or tulku, who are reincarnated lamas in Bhutan, or yogis, of course, in India, and So join my trips could be a good way to practice shamanic yoga, to meet spiritual, mystical people, to visit very, very sacred places, to travel inside and outside simultaneously, which is important. And yes.
Yeah, those are so important. And I know we talked about this briefly at the beginning of our discussion. You have a couple of events that are coming up here in the U.S. that are they're at very, I believe, at least for me, very powerful places spiritually. When we talk about, Yosemite, the Grand Canyon, and just these different areas that you'll be in.
Oh, yes. At the end of April, I will be in New Mexico on the Mount Sagrado for a seminar. Then at the beginning of May, I'll be in California, in Los Angeles, for another seminar. And then in the Yosemite Park, in the Grand Canyons, as you said, in the Monument Valley, even in the Death Valley. We visit all the national parks where we do seminars like Shamanic Yoga, Mother Mantra, and Shirling Yoko. Shirling Yoko is the Japanese art of forest bathing, which means forest immersion. And so we do that, for instance, at the Yosemite Park. I'll be again in the US in October in California and in Arizona for 2 seminars about Mother Mantra, Shamanic Yoga, and Shirling Yoko. So in April, May, and October, I will be there.
And all these wonderful places. My goodness. Well, I think I just have time for one more question because we've covered so much. If you were to leave our listeners with any final thoughts, what would you like to leave them with?
So I would say that our life is an expression of an inner narrative. And this inner narrative, this story, is never the creation of individual. There are always 2 writers behind it. One can be nature, soul, or the divine, the invisible, and the other can be you. Or one can be your mind and the society code, and the other can be you. So I hope that everyone can be able to write his or her inner narrative in company with soul or with the divine, and not only with his or her mind, because the mind is the social code, and the social code is narrow, is full of boundaries and limits, which create suffering and pain. The nature and the divine code is free and full of tremendous possibilities. Is a code of joy, simplicity, harmony. And so if our life is the manifestation of our inner narrative, we also have to ask ourselves, with whom I'm writing my inner narrative? This is the most important question, in my opinion, when someone is suffering or is feeling frustration or anger or pain. He or she has to ask himself or herself, I'm writing my inner narrative with whom?
Yeah, that's such a powerful question, and what a great way to end our discussion today in regards to the Mother Mantra. I mean, it's such a powerful practice, and just a very deep practice. I think ending it on that note is perfect. Selene, thank you so much for taking the. Oh, and before we go, where can our listeners again connect with you and be part of your community?
On my website, they can find everything on my website, selenecalloniwilliams.com.
Perfect. Well, Selene, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you for having me, Marianne. Hope to see you soon and to hear you again.
Well, thank you so much, Selene. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you, and of course to talk about your new book, The Mother Mantra, The Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. The Mother Mantra is available at Amazon, Inner Traditions, Barnes & Noble, and all indie bookstores. And if you don't see it on the shelf, ask for them to order it. Again, you can connect with Selene at selenecalloniwilliams.com, and it gives you an option to either choose English or Italian to visit each website. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.